Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast. I'm Reverend Ruth Van Lillian. I'm honored to serve here as the minister. We are a covenant organization founded on our belief in the strength of love and our common devotion to our free faith. And everyone is welcome here. We hope today to teach minds, to touch hearts, to challenge spirits, and to comfort souls. And I also want to say hi to those who are streaming with us. Good morning. And to wish everyone a happy, joyous, and rabble-rousing Pride Month. That is our thing. May you find restoration and refreshment in our service today.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Pyburn, a member of this fellowship and your service leader this morning. Announcements are listed in your order of service and in the e-news sent out, if you're on our email list, every Friday afternoon. After the service, we have a brief time for refreshments and conversation, followed by second-hour discussion groups, which are also listed in your order of service. Today we have TED Talks, Pagan Pathways, and a choir rehearsal. Even if you've never been to any of them before, or you want to switch it up, you are welcome in any one. They last about an hour, from 11:15 to 12:15. And we have some special announcements about Pride Month from Jane Park.
Good morning, and I am here on behalf of many wonderful members of this and friends of this fellowship who are my cohorts in good trouble. So we, myself, Miriam, we will be sitting kind of where the lovely Amy is. To give you, I'm not going to give you all these details that you won't remember in 2 minutes, but we will be giving you opportunities to volunteer at Pride events for the next 2 Saturdays, and we hope for a great UUFEC showing at this critical time in this state for our LGBTQ family. There'll be fun, lots of fun stuff. We have a table, and I also want to give a huge shout out to Erica. After that, a thing that we're doing is letter writing, and again, I'm not going to give you all these details. There's a couple of handouts right as you walk in behind the lovely Miss Judy. There's a table behind Judy. So please join. Come find us for all the great details. We'll be sitting there at snack time. And yes, Miriam Vanna, yes, well done. So please join us in making sure that UUFAC has a wonderful, loving presence at this month's Pride events. Thank you.
The prelude prepares us for the service. is going to light the chalice for us. We call forth the life of our faith by igniting our chalice. This spark of new beginnings invites us into a sacred space to reflect where we have been and where we are going. Even knowing that this particular flame will intentionally end with our ritual extinguishing, we fear not its end. For we know with brave hearts that from every ending of our lives, we are sent forth to make a new beginning.
You would find a gray hymnal, or I think you'll be able to see it up here. Number 548. Oh, not up there. Okay, so gray hymnal. Toward the back, number 548, our call to worship is Summer Warmth by Helen Cohen. I'll read the regular print. If you would please read aloud the italic print, that's number 548. We stand at the edge of summer. The last burst of spring blossoms, lavender and white and deep pink banks of rhododendron, are giving way to summer peonies and roses. O source of the turning seasons, of earth, of life, of promise gradually becoming fulfillment. May your people find the lightening of the burdens with the brightening of the sky. And if you would turn in the same hymnal over to 397, or you can see the hymn lyrics on the screen. We had so much fun singing around last week, I thought we'd do it again. So, 397 is a round, and we're going to do it in two parts. Cecile will play, and I'll sing it through once, so we all get familiar. And then I'm going to lead this half as number 1, and the choir is going to lead that half as number 2, and we're going to all sing through the round 3 times. So just keep singing until everyone stops. Morning has come, night is away, rise with the sun and welcome the day. Morning has come, night is away, rise with the sun and welcome the day. Morning has come, night is away, rise with the sun and welcome the day. Morning has come, night is away, rise with the sun and welcome the day. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And now it's time for all ages, more singing. This is a great day for singing. So the kids are invited to come up, and anyone who feels young at heart. And I'm going to be Liz's backup singer this morning. Doo-wop, doo-wop. Sure.
Hey everybody, it's good to see your faces. So we're currently taking a journey in religious exploration. We're learning about real people who put the 7 UU principles into action. Sometimes it's hard to remember them all, so we found a fun song about the principles, and we're going to sing it to the tune of Old MacDonald, and Reverend Ruth will help lead the song.
All right. I don't even know what to tell you to give me. Middle
with the one. It starts with one. One is actually part of the line. One all people are worth one.
Okay, so. One all people are worthwhile. That's what we affirm. With a high five here and a high five there. Here five, there five, everywhere a high five. One all people are worthwhile. That's what we affirm. To treat kindly all people. That's what we affirm. With a backpack here and a backpack there. Here a pack, there a pack, everywhere a backpack. Oh, treat kindly all people. That's what we affirm. Three, take people as they are. That's what we affirm. With a welcome here and a welcome there. Here, welcome, there, welcome, everywhere. Welcome, welcome, pray, take people as they are. That's what we affirm. Four, grow spirit, mind, and heart. That's what we affirm. With the heart hands here and the heart hands there. Here a heart, there a heart, everywhere a heart hands. Mind and heart. That's what we affirm. Five, let's vote on our concerns. That's what we affirm. With a yes vote here and a no vote there. Here a yes, there a no, everywhere a yes, no. Five, let's vote on our concerns. That's what we affirm. Six, for peace and justice work. That's what we affirm. With a peace sign here and a peace sign there. Here a sign, there a sign, everywhere a peace sign. Six, for peace and justice work. That's what we affirm. Seven, when we are of the earth. That's what we affirm. With a handshake here and a handshake there. Here a handshake, there a handshake, everywhere a handshake. Seven, when we are of the earth. That's what we affirm. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere you may go.
That was fun. You are invited to briefly share personal events in your life by dropping a pebble into the bowl of water silently or speaking a few words into the microphone. So we
Our lives are busy and noisy and full, even wonderfully full, can still be overwhelming sometimes. So I invite you to take a moment to be silent and to still the beating, the fluttering, the anxiety. Rest yourselves for a few moments in this safe, loving place. And then I'll close us with some words by the Reverend Dana Smith. In this month of welcoming and celebrating and loving those who have lived on the margins, some of whom are still living on the margins. Fearless beloveds, let us remember that the same particles that make the stars have also formed us. We shine with stardust for the entire world to see our beauty. You, beloveds, you are the bearer of the divine and holy unto yourselves, given life to live expansively and lusciously. Even though the powers of life can be rascally and stubborn, even amidst destructive and oppressive systems, together we can practice hope and fearless love. So go on, beloveds. Go forth to shimmer and shine like the beautiful cosmic stardust that makes you perfect just as you are. We will show the world what love looks like. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.
Will the greeters come forward to take up the offering? Generosity is a spiritual practice. Our fellowship is supported by our pledges and donations. If you are paying your pledge with a check today, please make a note in the memo line. We also share our cash offering and any checks with STP or Share the Plate in the memo line with a local charity. For this month of June, our Share the Plate partner is PFLAG of Niceville. PFLAG offers support services, educational resources, and advocacy for families on behalf of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community. They hold monthly support meetings right here in our building, support Emerald Coast Pride events, have a book club, and help establish gay-straight alliance groups in our schools. Please be generous.
right, who has friends and family graduating this spring? Terrific. Want to share? Who? Sandy?
My granddaughter graduated from Indiana University, and she's going on to veterinary school at Purdue.
Wow. All right, so we got a granddaughter. Yes?
Our grandson graduated from Mississippi State, and he's already got a job. Very well.
All right, there's a grandson. Someone else? Yes?
Hannah Farley, our granddaughter, graduated from American University, and she started this week her internship with the United Nations Office of Climate Change.
My goodness. The granddaughter. Yes, somebody back there, I thought. Yes, Miriam?
Yes, my cousin's son graduated summa cum laude from the University of Alabama at Birmingham and is rapidly approaching his decision to practice.
Terrific. Terrific. Anybody else want to share? Yes?
My cousin's son graduated from Fort Walton Beach and got into MIT.
Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Cole Armstrong.
Yes?
Our youngest graduated. He's been homeschooled almost all his life, but his initial homeschool group that we started out with in England, we had 6 of them graduate this year, and everybody has been accepted to where they want to go so far, so that's the goal.
Terrific. Terrific. Yes, it's, I heard someone say the other day on the TV, people graduate summa cum laude, magna cum laude, and oh, thank the Lordy, or something like that. So, you know, it all counts. There were none for me this year, but graduation is certainly on my mind. I graduated from John Carroll Catholic High School in 1984. Oh, so long ago. Bishop Vath met me on the stage. He placed the diploma folder in my left hand while shaking my right hand as the principal spoke solemn words. I will never forget the bishop's brown eyes boring into mine, the sweat beading on his brow, my right hand going numb as we wrestled for that diploma. When he finally released me, I marched across the stage to the bellowing chorus of my classmates, rhythmically chanting my name as if I had just caught the game-winning pass. I felt elated, invincible. Before me lay a summer of great adventures, a choir trip through Europe, a family trip to Disney World, and in the fall, I would move into the dorm and begin studying English Lit at Birmingham Southern College. I had my future all mapped out: college, seminary, ordination in the Methodist Church, a 40-year ministerial career. Somewhere in there I hope to marry, have children. I might write, publish, sing, and through all of it, I would change the world. You remember what that felt like? You remember, oh wow, the world was our oyster. The majority of you, I'm sure, have attended schools of various sorts, reached that magical moment of commencement, diploma in hand, mortarboard on head, butterflies in the stomach, relief, amazement, expectation, a sense of accomplishment. Anything seemed possible. And then the real world. I loved school because in most subjects I was good at it. I was one of those annoying people who could put off studying and paper writing to the last minute and still pull it out, you know. The talent enabled me to devote much time to the all-important pursuit of a social life. You would be amazed at the things seminary students get up to. Once, following a dramatic presentation on women theologians, the cast proceeded to the local pub, still in costume. I had played the part of Hildegard of Bingen. I was dressed as a 12th century German nun. I suspect the bartender was Catholic because every time I went up to order another drink, he'd ask rather sadly, "Don't you think you've had enough, sister?" I loved school even more retrospectively and for completely different reasons. I went straight from seminary to my first church. I was 25. A few months in, I realized I really missed school. I usually just had one professor to please instead of a whole congregation, and a syllabus explaining how to accomplish that. I had a limited time frame in which to accomplish my tasks, and when they were completed, I received a grade and I was done. In the real world, I discovered it was more like wash, rinse, repeat. The minute I finished with one sermon, I had to start working on the next one. And those folk didn't like having a young, inexperienced woman minister. This was more than 30 years ago. So compared to school, I found that living in small-town Alabama, trying to bring hope to people who seemed determined to find fault, my real world was lonely and often depressing. In many ways, my move to my second church appointment was as important a graduation as school commencement had been. I had survived 2 years, and I had comforted the afflicted and afflicted the comfortable to the best of my ability. I had learned a lot, like intelligence is not always a virtue. It is folly to continue offering your best to people determined to reject you. Bringing a Great Dane into the parsonage does not endear a minister to the parishioners. So we graduate from education in which we embraced challenging requirements to achieve a desired end. But what about the learning we have gained from the unexpected events of pain and suffering, which we could not escape? Is this a graduation worthy of celebration as well? We live in a culture still permeated by the Jewish and Christian theological construct of an omnipotent deity interfering with a fallen creation. The Orthodox belief system places the populace in the role of weak and naughty children under the authority of an impatient and exacting taskmaster God. This God punishes the children to teach obedience. Suffering is seen as evidence of God's punishment, which is to serve the purpose of teaching us to be good and faithful. Human suffering becomes payment to the deity for wrongdoing or sin. And sin cannot be forgiven without payment of sufficient suffering and sacrifice. We have probably all of us set that idea aside. But it kind of sticks around, doesn't it? We are wrestling with those ideas in the larger community right now. It is useful to remember how we inherited this false, destructive idea that suffering, whether self-inflicted or imposed upon us, is an admirable, even virtuous tool of education. The concept of suffering as punishment for sin is not unique to Jewish and Christian traditions, but those traditions figure most prominently in the evolution of American society. Certainly, much learning can and does result from different kinds of suffering. We all have set tasks and requirements for ourselves and have struggled and suffered to achieve those goals. We have learned much from such processes and graduated to the next level, so to speak. Just ask our excellent president, Miriam Williams, who is training for a 50-mile run along the Appalachian Trail in 24 hours. It is called the 4-State Challenge. The suffering looks intense to me, but she anticipates this personal goal as an exciting graduation worth pursuing. Additionally, most of us have experienced suffering unsought and unexpected, and have found afterward that there was learning which redeemed the suffering and made it valuable to us. So while we may reject the notion that suffering is inherently redemptive, we can probably agree that some kinds of suffering may be redeemable as conducive to growth and learning. We can celebrate these graduations as well. And then there is the suffering we experience as a result of mistakes or immoral actions. Such suffering serves as a kind of just punishment, as well as a means of teaching us to abandon destructive behavior and live better, kinder, healthier lives. Such lessons once learned are also worthy of celebration. Ask any addict about their sobriety anniversaries, and they'll often tell you they mean a lot more than any diploma they ever received. We hunger for some kind of redemption, even as some of us have abandoned the orthodox belief systems. We want our suffering and the suffering of others to count for something positive. We feel we can endure the suffering if it turns out to be a life lesson we can celebrate later. I knew a lovely woman in seminary who started out in ballet. Sherry had pursued dance through her youth to begin a career with a professional ballet company. At some point in her mid-20s, she found it increasingly difficult to get up in the morning due to the pain she suffered in her joints. And she began to doubt that this suffering was redeemed in the joy of her art. Finally, she decided she didn't want to live like that. The suffering for her art had become irredeemable or valueless, and she hung up her toe shoes. Think of the events of great suffering you have experienced or observed. Accidents, injuries, losses from acts of war, terrorism, natural disaster, disease, human neglect, and cruelty. What do we look for so hungrily, so desperately? We look for a way to redeem the suffering. We must find a way to make sense of it. We want to hear the stories of rescue amidst destruction, of willing sacrifice to save life, of endurance and triumph over injury and loss. The redemption of suffering turns the punishment into learning, and then there is something worth celebrating. Please don't mistake me for Pollyanna singing my glad song amidst the trials and tribulations of the world. Not all suffering teaches something worth learning. Some suffering is irredeemable. Despite our need to make sense of suffering and our insistence at hunting for some small sign of redemption, sometimes there is none. Nietzsche's assertion does not always hold true. Sometimes what doesn't kill us leaves us a helpless, mangled wreck. We only have to turn on the news to see irredeemable suffering every day. Think of the citizens in Ukraine just trying to go about their daily lives, enduring the continuous bombardment of their homes and towns for over a year. Think of the people, the children who suffer amidst the daily mass shootings in this country. Think of those suffering from the effects of natural disasters, the hurricanes, the fires, mudslides, volcanoes. Those of us looking on cases of irredeemable suffering from the outside may learn many things, but that does not redeem the suffering. While many outside individuals have extensively studied and examined the Nazi Holocaust, is there any redemption of the experience for the survivors? Has the extensive analysis of the immeasurable, inconceivable, overwhelming horror of that atrocity served to stop human beings from attempting genocide elsewhere, like Serbia, Croatia, Rwanda, Syria? While the news shows the search for the silver lining in the disaster of the day in order to wrap it in a nice, neat package to keep the ratings up, we who look deeper and see that there will be no redemption must struggle with the temptation to look away. There's too much suffering thrust before our eyes, and we've cried too many tears and wrenched our hearts too many times. And what we crave is daisies, quiet music, gentle breezes under a friendly sky. And that's okay. Sometimes it's all right to take a break and soothe ourselves. But I tell you what I know from my connections with victims and survivors of irredeemable suffering. Many of them want to be seen. I mean, seen with compassionate eyes, not ogled like a sideshow entertainment. They want to be acknowledged for their courage and their endurance while not being identified only with that horrible event. They need us to, as they say from the Bible, gird our loins and gaze on their suffering honestly and love them as fellow human beings who deserve dignity and respect. Learning to look fearlessly at the deepest human suffering may teach us new ways to love each other. It might even be a path to changing the world that we once thought was our oyster. The great Indian philosopher and teacher Jiddu Krishnamurti reminds us there is no end to education. It's not that you read a book, pass an examination, and finish with education. The whole of life, from the moment you are born to the moment you die, is a process of learning. My friends, we will each graduate many times. Some learning is pursued joyfully and eagerly, and some is forced upon us. Some growth will come through our own painful experiences, and some will come in our efforts to love someone else who has or is enduring irredeemable suffering. A graduation is both an ending and a beginning, a completion and a continuation. A door shuts behind us, and we will not return to the place we were before. We cannot unknow what we have learned, even if we'd rather forget sometimes. Every graduation means we will each never be quite the same person again. Friends, wherever your learning is taking you, may your education enrich, embolden, and encourage. Fellow graduates, I salute you. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be. If you would find a teal hymnal, or blue or green if you have some color blindness, I've discovered, and turn to 1017. The choir says this is a fun hymn. So let's all have some fun. We're going to sing 1017, Building a New Way. We'll sing all 4 verses. As you are able, I invite you to stand.
Stronger We have reached the end of this time for the gathering of memory and for letting the imagination play with future possibilities. We have enjoyed some magic moments, some fun, and learned from each other. Shall it be concluded then? Or will this adventure, now commenced, continue? Is this ending to be an ending, or merely prelude to new, more glorious beginnings? I pose the question. In your hearts lies the answer.
Siblings and kindred, we are graduating in some fashion on a regular basis because we are learning and we are growing. May the day, the week, and the month ahead of you be an opportunity for new education and new beginnings. Let us go in peace, following the prelude. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.
Thank you all for coming. Please join us in the back for refreshments, conversation, and second hour activities. What fun music. That was great music.
Really well. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I need to